Welcome back to Inside Criminal Minds, the series that follows an elite FBI team in order to catch serial killers. If you're new to the series, there's a link in the description to catch you up. This episode begins on Dia de los Muertos, or the Day of the Dead. So this is a Halloween episode. I totally planned this. Anyhow, a family is interrupted in the festivities by a drunk man we learn is part of the family, casted out because we learn later it is due to his lifestyle. And during the argument, we see an interesting character chilling by his car. However, after the argument, we see an older lady in the house alone until someone knocks. She does invite the person in, and the unsub starts attacking, and eventually kills her. And next we see Hotch with his new son, and he is crying his eyes out until Haley's sister relieves Hotch. Also, this episode is Hotch's birthday, but it really doesn't make that much difference. And as he gives Haley's sister his child, Hotch gives a sarcastic line.
All right, let's see your profile of disorganized psychopath.
This is interrupted by Gideon attempting to bring Hotch back to the BAU, and Hotch leaving on his day off. And this is where the sister gets some payback.
You're one hell of a profiler.
This sparks the catalyst of Hotch's problems with Haley. Hotch loves his job to the detriment of his relationships, and it becomes way more prevalent in the future seasons. However, back at the BAU, they do discuss the case and also the politics of how this case is going to go. And as they're leaving, Hotch does hesitate to call Haley, with Gideon prodding him, and of course, Hotch chooses his job over his family. On the plane, JJ tries to console Hotch about leaving, remarking at least he can celebrate his birthday in Mexico. And Reed even tries to speak Spanish and fails, but he is saved by Elle.
La Casa del Perro?
La casita del perro.
That's what I said.
Face it, Chico, you are only a genius in English.
They do briefly go over the case until they arrive at the police station. Gideon gets reacquainted with the police captain because of Gideon's work with seminars. Not only that, the police captain name drops Max Ryan, an ex-BAU agent from an earlier episode, which is a good bit of world building. Anyway, Captain Navarro explains to Gideon that profiling may not work in Mexican cultures. However, Gideon is confident that it will work. As the team travel to the crime scene, Captain Navarro explains further how the American profiling won't work as well. As they arrive, the team talk about,
"What's all this?" Dia de los Muertos.
Day of the Dead, 3-day Latin holiday where souls of dead relatives are said to return to Earth to enjoy the pleasures that they once knew of.
It sounds like he was reading that out of a book.
Trust me, he always sounds like that.
I was reading. I picked this pamphlet up at the airport.
which is honestly just a funny scene with Reed and Morgan that really show how much they bond together. Navarro explains the scene before they enter the house. After entering, they go through the murder and why they were drinking before it. This is where Navarro explains that the drink is a womanly drink, which doesn't make sense because the team believe that the unsub is a man. Gideon is searching the bedroom where she was killed and finds a picture of Miguel hidden in the drawer. This is the guy who was drunk and arguing with his family. This does show that she still loves him, but was ashamed of him. Gideon then describes that the killer is most definitely a heterosexual male. After they leave the scene, the team meet up with the Attorney General, Maria Sanchez, briefly at the police station. The team interview Miguel about the fight from that first scene. He is trying to clear his name, but won't admit to being homosexual, which shuts Miguel down. Hotch then has a sidebar with Navarro about Miguel's sexuality, and Navarro reveals that he knew, but couldn't use this as evidence to Miguel's innocence. Hotch does mention that he doesn't want to be there basically to play politics, but Navarro quickly shuts this down by sympathizing with the victims. While the team discuss getting the other files of the unsub's work, they determine that they need to clear Miguel's name with something other than his sexuality, and arrive at the conclusion to speak with his sister. And during the interview, she absolves Miguel of the crime of passion, but could place blame on Miguel's lover, forcing the team to interview him, Roberto. Just so happens to be the weird guy that we saw at the beginning of the episode, who gives the team a potential witness. As they return to the station, Garcia calls about the cups, revealing that DNA shows one male and female drinker, alluding to the person Roberto saw, a social worker, was in drag the whole time, and has the potential to be the suspect. The team introduces the profile to the local police and disclose that they are looking for a rapist in drag. Unfortunately, during the profile, another victim is discovered, and while the team are investigating, they find part of a necklace on the victim's neck, which turns out to be a family member's, and as they're trying to ask questions about the latest murder, they receive a call about a disturbance down at the police station, where it seems that the local police officers rounding up potential victims who just so happen to be guys in drag. However, the team scolds them for not listening to what the team were saying, and unfortunately this debacle brought a lot of unwanted attention from the Attorney General. This makes her unhappy and is pleading Navarro to send the team home. However, he is able to subside this while the team discuss the possible mistake. They also develop a plan to reach out to the community to talk about their sexual assault, and they surmise 2 years ago was the stressor. Elle then goes around town in order to interview SA survivors. During the interviews, they get a lead about a woman who potentially saw the unsub. It was a man who was wearing a dress, and she humiliated him, forcing him to change his MO. Also, this survivor rounds up the rest of the victims in order for the police to interview them. We also get a scene with the unsub and his mother. Afterwards, Navarro begs the women to interview with the victims, and they all give similar stories, making the team conclude the women were attacked by the same unsub. And as they discuss this, a police officer reveals that some of the victims work together at a factory, which the team go to in order to find the unsub. Unfortunately, there are just too many men who fit the profile, so the team have to narrow it down due to the unsub's lack of confidence and ask the factory owner very specific questions to narrow down the suspect to one singular person, which they find out where he lives and breach to see if the unsub is still there. This is where they find an homage to Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, as they find a mummified corpse of the unsub's mother, and also the rape victim's employee records strewn across the wall. Next, we see people going home, presumably after church, which is where we see the unsub getting prepared for his next victim to arrive home. Next, at the station, the team find the connection between the kills and the rapes. He only kills the mother of the people he previously raped, and since he's going in order, they figure out who the next potential victim is, and they waste no time in going there. And while the team are clearing the house, they find blood trailing to a body in the backyard, which turns out to be the unsub with his happy place chopped off. And to be honest, I really don't blame them. We then see all of the women come out of the forest, basically admitting to what they did. Back at the station, Navarro is concerned about the victims going to jail after everything that had just happened. However, the Attorney General assures him they won't be. Ending this episode with Navarro wanting to create a BAU in his own district. This episode was best when they were showing Hotch's relationship with Haley. It did show the chasm between Hotch and Haley starting. And I wish at the end of the episode they would have gone more in depth with how Haley was feeling after Hotch left. But all in all, this was a decent episode with an interesting unsub. Thanks for watching, and if you're curious about a spy who got fired, watch my other series, Burned Notice, link in the description, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.